What's going on? I enjoyed that All That Smoke interview with Darryl Strawberry. He broke down the art of hitting. He talked about Barry Bonds being the greatest. He talked about Dwight Gooden's greatness. He talked about Derek Jeter, the difference between Yankees, Mets fans. He said with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson and just broke it down. People don't realize this guy was one of the most purest talents I've ever seen in baseball. As long as I've been watching baseball, if I told people that this cat, as far as offensive loan, was a precursor to a Ken Griffey Jr. and Barry Bonds, and you had to see it to believe it. But I go back to when he was playing in AAA, and when he was a Met and the winning and everything, and just the honesty. The one of the most rawest, honest cats, but a cat that his talent was scary. And we talk about the shoulda, woulda, coulda been a Hall of Famer first ballot. He's like one of the names that comes immediately to the top. It's just that the drugs and the liquor and the fast living and lifestyle got him, but we're glad we still got him on this earth. But an incredible soul. He has stories about Lawrence Taylor and Mike Tyson, talking about different things in New York and being part of it and the differences. But he understood the dynamics of pitching and hitting, and he know locations and how even Timberman in his time out going with the Dodgers and everything. I mean, it was like, sometimes with All That Smoke, sometimes there's some interviews I kind of like, who depends on who's on the show. Depends on who's on the show. This was one of the must-haves because if you were from a certain time period and what have you, you know how great Straw was. You know what Straw was like. I mean, and a cat that just had a certain air about him, but fit in really well and did the thing. And but you wanted him to be, you wanted to see the best for him, because when you see that kind of talent, you're just like, wow, that dude had all the tools of being in that GOAT conversation easily. And it makes me think of probably like if I did I don't know, probably I'll do a feature one where I'll be talking about something about him, because it got me thinking about the guy that could have been and should have been, who had that career. And, he was one of those guys that undoubtedly, um, and I like to hear, especially older baseball players, especially when the cats have personality. I love to hear their conversation because they're so rare. They are so rare. And nowadays, everybody's programming, corporate, and bought and paid for. But it's something when you can see a cat from a particular era that definitely, spoke his mind, told things in his totality, and and then you can appreciate because his knowledge, you know. Um, because I like when he talk about Dwight Gooden, because a lot of people, Dwight Gooden is the uncle of Gary Sheffield, so he was talking about that Tampa, Florida connection and that, and just the way he would break down. He talked about Keith Hernandez, the ins and outs with that. Just talked about what the expectations was and what he came to do and how he came to do it. And you can't help but tip your cap to a man that survived cancer a couple times and all the other things, the highs and lows and in between. So he's seen it. He's seen the bottom and he's seen the top and he's in between and all the stuff that went with it. So um, something else. And of course, I always remember those 86 Mets, though. That's hard to believe. That's almost 40 years ago. It's just the way time flies and where you were and what you were doing. So uh, just putting it in perspective. But anyway, great interview. And I like those kind of interviews, especially when they tell them and they talk about something. Please like, subscribe, welcome thoughts, comments, and I do respond. Thank you. Wash your hands, keep your mind clear, watch out for another, and please share the video if you like. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay woke, stay free, stay true. And do watch that All That Smokes interview with Darryl Strawberry. Very insightful. I like it back because they did an old throwback to what Roy Firestone used to do on ESPN when they were worth watching, especially on up close, when they would give a take on a particular player or something and your thoughts and your answers. And Darryl Strawberry is pretty forthright and direct. And I like that because that is missing in modern day sports. We don't really get the honesty of what people got to say. I'm out one time. Peace.